Hello and welcome. It's Adina from the Immigrant Finance Podcast. We are so excited to have you here. Let me introduce myself for a second. I am an immigration attorney who's been practicing for nearly 10 years. I'm also an accredited financial counselor and a financial and business coach specializing in empowering immigrant families really move from surviving to thriving and build wealth and live to their fullest potential. I got involved in this work from a unique experience where I am actually not an immigrant myself, but my husband is. And I have gone through with him the whole experience and journey of what it looks like to come to this country and know nothing about finances and have no resources and what that can do to you personally and as a family. And what happened for us was Mal came here in 2013. And when he came, we really struggled about money for several years. And even as an immigration attorney, I couldn't find any information out there about how immigrant families could navigate the financial system. I didn't know whether he could have a bank account or a credit card or invest, or whether he'd be able to have a mortgage or retirement fund someday as we thought about growing our lives together. And this was really hard and it caused a lot of anxiety and stress and overwhelm for us. We spent about the past 10 years really obsessively studying the intersection of the immigration system and the financial system and learning how they really work together, how people can navigate it. And first started sharing about what we were learning in 2018 on our website at immigrantfinance.com, which we'd love for you to check out. We've got a ton of free, awesome resources that can be helpful up there. And so once we started this website and started blogging about this topic and really seeing there was nothing out there on the whole internet, we knew that we had something that was helping people, and we knew that we needed to take that very seriously and expand it. So we have since grown the platform where we've now got this podcast, our YouTube channel, a ton of social media education content out there. You can check us out on various platforms. We've got a free Facebook group. People can hang out and check out some of our trainings. And for those who are looking for more support, we have our signature Immigrant Finance School program where we really focus on helping immigrants learn how to do everything financially, regardless of their financial or immigrant situation. And we help people make massive financial shifts so they can move from surviving to thriving, to move from the paycheck to paycheck situation with no plan to having a plan to create lifetime wealth, and to really move forward their goals and thrive. This is something we are extremely passionate about doing, and it is our act of service to the world. And we hope to see more and more immigrants who are taking these steps, who are supporting each other and growing this amazing community so that we can see more immigrants building wealth. Our goal is to, over the next 5 years, help 1,000 immigrant families invest over $10 million together. So join us in this journey. Let us know about what steps you're taking to move forward your finances. Share out these episodes, share out our posts so that we can get the word out and encourage your family and friends to take steps to become more financially empowered, because this world would look very different and our immigration laws and system would look very different. And frankly, the people who vote and determine the future of this country would look very different if more immigrants were financially stable and strong and building wealth. So thanks for joining us on the ride, and we can't wait to connect with you. Always love hearing from our audience. So shoot us a message on Instagram at immigrant.finance. And we can't wait to connect. Enjoy the episode and take care. Hi, everyone. It's Adina here from Immigrant Finance. I hope all is well with you and that you're having a good day so far as you listen to this, or a good night whenever it is. Let's talk about timing. with finances for this episode. I want to talk specifically about this idea that there can be a good time that to wait, to get started with your finances or to take your finances to the next level or get control of your money. And to really get into this topic of how there's actually never a good time, and it's really about making a decision to make it the right time and claiming your power back, because it's so easy for us when we have these projects to work on, whether it's with your finances or your relationship or cleaning the house, doing something on your to-do list, whatever it is. It's so easy to say, oh, I'll do that when it's the right time or when I have more time. And then time just keeps going and life keeps happening and more things keep coming up and it never happens. Like, how many of you have had that happen with something in your life? I know I certainly have, and everyone I know has had that come up at times. So, when it comes to finances specifically, this is something I hear from a lot of people where they're like, I know that this is important. I know I deserve to be financially empowered. I know that I want to have a better financial future for me and my family, and that I need to take steps to do that. But I'm just super busy right now and there's a lot going on. I got this going on and this going on. So, like, let me wait until the summer or something, or wait until, next year, whatever it is. And then something else happens and then it never really happens. So when you do that, you really are giving your power away, because you're placing your power on something external, some external circumstance that you have no control over, right? Whether it's time or some other things settling in life or something else happening. And that takes away power from you internally to be able to put your finances on track and to be reaching your financial goals. And so that ultimately disempowers you. And that's something I really want to get into, that took me a while to just think differently and think about giving my power away and claiming my power and all of that. It was something I was definitely not taught growing up, and I've had to learn from mentors over the years. I didn't even know I had power to begin with, right? Like, no one ever told me that. But we all have so much power in our life, and so much power through the power of decision and through the power of claiming what we want our lives to be and taking action for them to happen. But we aren't told that, and we often don't know that, and we often end up giving that power away by kicking the can down the road to some hypothetical time in the future where it might all work out, or we might have more time, or right, it might be some scenario that makes things better. Sorry, y'all. We have a brief interruption. I got a call from my mom, who is bringing our daughter over. She was babysitting today, and I actually forget where I last was in the episode. So, but this episode, I was going to talk about like a personal family thing that happened today as an example for this. So maybe that was the segue we needed. That's time to talk about that, because sometimes it's easier to understand what steps we need to take with our finances if we think about how the same behavior applies in another area of our life. So here's the story I was going to tell, which that call, I guess, again, pinged me, and now is the time. So we were feeling like really exhausted. So our 2.5-year-old got pretty sick the week before last. She had like double ear infections and really high fever. And I know that's really common with kids, for kids to get sick all the time, especially when they're in daycare. But it's the first time she was really sick with us. And, she had just started daycare a couple months ago in March. So yeah, finally happened, and it was really rough. But now her sleep is like all messed up. Like, she doesn't want to nap, she doesn't want to go to bed. She was climbing out of the crib. We switched to the toddler railing, all that. I don't want to go too off track, but the reason it's relevant for this conversation is we realized we just needed like a break. We just needed like a date night. We just needed a little time, because it's been rough with her sick and none of us sleeping, and she's been having hissy fits because her sleep is all messed up and all that. And so we were just like, we need a little refresh. We need a break. And so my parents were very kind and watched her for some hours today, and we were able to go out to lunch and have a date and watch a movie together. It was so nice. But it's relevant because that was another thing where it's like we just had to make a decision. We were on this track with our kid being sick and not sleeping and all of that, where there was just not a good time for our relationship or having time for just us, right? And we weren't able to find the time. And so the only reason we were able to have a date night is because we made a decision and we were just like, okay, there's never going to be a good time for this. We have to carve out time for this. We have to be intentional. And that's exactly what I'm trying to explain with finances, what needs to happen, because there's never going to be a good time. Life is crazy. You can have your 2.5-year-old with double ear infections and fever and not sleeping. And like the last thing you want to do is sit down and learn how to budget or learn how to invest, right? Or learn how to plan your retirement fund. Like it is hard to squeeze it in if you have all that going on. Just like it's hard to pull off a date night with all that going on. So it's really about how just, we all need to accept that for things we want to happen in our lives, there's never a good time. And you just have to make that choice and you have to take your power back. You have to claim this is the time I'm going to dedicate for this. I'm going to carve out this time in my schedule. I'm going to find a way because this is what I deserve and what my family deserves. And this is going to put us in a position going forward in the future where we're going to be in a better circumstance and it's going to be worth it. So if you're having those thoughts of like, it's not the right time, this theoretical time in the future, in a few months, whatever, next year is going to be the right time to work on my finances, question that. Like, check yourself. Is that fear talking? Is that doubt talking? Is that your ego speaking up, right? Is that really you? Do you really believe that? Because you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready, and there's never going to be good time. And if you wait until you're ready, it'll never happen because there's no such thing, right? There's no such thing as being in a perfect situation where you're fully ready to do anything that's outside your comfort zone. There's no place that exists where there's no fear at all and you feel completely ready, right? So it's about knowing that and kind of beating the system in a way, understanding, oh, that's what's going on. My brain is just freaking out and scared because I'm thinking about doing something different that's outside my comfort zone. My brain is trying to keep me safe. So my brain is telling me this story about how there may be some better time and I can kind of delay this, or I can kind of give my power away and do this at another time that might be better, even if that's never going to actually exist. And if you wait for this thing that doesn't actually exist, you're basically going to continue being in the same cycle forever, indefinitely. That's what happens. It's like you heard people talking about what is it, the hamster and the hamster wheel. People talk about that with being like in a job they hate, in a 9 to 5 they hate, and they can't get off the track. Like it's the same thing when you want to be doing something different, or you want to be learning something, or you want to be taking your life to the next level in a way, and you don't do it, and you give your power away, and you say, "Oh, I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll do it in the future." It's the same kind of thing. That's actually what you should be most afraid of, to be honest. I say this from a place of love. I say this as someone who has been through this before, who coaches people all the time in breaking through these limiting beliefs that can keep them where they are and hold them back. That's what you should really be afraid of. You shouldn't be afraid of being in that position in the future that's risky and unknown and uncertain and may or may not work out, but maybe could lead you to your next level and maybe lead you to a place where you're building a life that in the future that you want, right? And that's going to be better for you and your family, give you opportunities you never could have dreamed of. Like what's scary, what's risky, what you should be most afraid of is staying where you are. That's what you should be most afraid of. I heard someone say something once that really struck a chord with me. That is, there's no such thing as staying where you are. You're either moving forward or moving backward. Like this idea of staying where you are is a lie. It's not possible. As humans, we are meant to grow and expand over time. And when we don't allow ourselves to do that, we actually don't stay where we are. We end up going backward. We end up dying in a way inside our souls. And if you see people who you see, not going for their dreams, stuck, letting their beliefs and thoughts, you keep them where they are, keeping them stuck, like telling them they're not good enough to, we all go through that. We all go through that with so many different things. Like I know when I've been through periods like that and I'm believing those thoughts and I'm staying where I am, I know there's a little piece inside of me that is dying a bit. And that's exactly what happens. Because again, there's no such thing as staying where you are. It's either forward or backwards. So, really, what we should all, again, be most afraid of is trying to stay where we are, which doesn't exist, and then therefore going backward. And keep in mind that indecision is a decision as well. I talked about in a recent episode how decisions and making decisions are the most powerful tool we have for wealth building. And keep in mind, I didn't talk about this, I don't think, but indecision itself is also a decision. When you choose not to act and choose not to make a decision, that's a decision. Don't think that you're avoiding having to make a decision by not making a decision because, again, indecision is a decision. It's choosing to stay where you are and therefore really go backward or to be stuck in analysis paralysis. And I talked about in that recent episode how, like, this analogy if you were out at sea, lost, and treading water and you couldn't see any land, how it's better to just pick a direction and swim any direction, even not knowing if it's going to lead you to land, than to stay where you are because you have a higher chance of getting to land when you do that. If you stay where you are, the only thing you know for sure is that you're eventually going to get tired and give up and drown. But when you pick a direction to swim, you might hit land. You might hit a beautiful island that becomes yours where you could build the home of your and family of your dreams, right? There's so much potential when you make a decision. And if anything, we learn when we make the wrong decisions. So keep in mind when you're in analysis paralysis, when you're stuck in this idea that there's never going to be a good time or I have to wait till there's the right time. It's a trap. It's a lie that our brains tell us to try to keep us safe. And this is something I talk about with our coaching students all the time. But our brains were evolutionarily designed in a way where it is primarily focused on keeping us safe in our comfort zone. So I'm definitely not a brain expert or scientist or any of that. So excuse me for those of you who are more experts in that, how I'm describing this. But generally, big picture, the vast majority of our brain is in the back part of the brain. It's related to the limbic system. And it was the first part of the human brain that ever developed evolutionarily, and it was primarily focused on keeping us safe. So, for example, like knowing to run when a lion's coming after you, or knowing not to jump off the cliff and kill yourself, right? Like that kind of thing. And although our brain since then has evolved and we now have a prefrontal cortex in the front that allows us to make decisions and plan and think in the future and be creative and all of that, most of our brain is still that limbic system that is all about keeping us safe and protected. And our brains today cannot distinguish what is actually a real threat that would risk our life versus what's just something going outside our comfort zone that's uncomfortable that could potentially be a really good thing. So it's one of the most powerful things you can do for wealth building is starting to realize that and just kind of witness how your brain is reacting when you have these opportunities to go outside your comfort zone. For example, improving your finances, taking your finances to the next level, getting control over your money, planning your money game to put you and your family in a better situation for the future, right? Notice if those feelings of not being safe are coming up, because that's probably just that part of your brain that takes up most of your brain going into overdrive and kind of hijacking, because your brain is like, oh my god, there's this thing coming up that's new and uncomfortable, I've never done this before, let's just stay where we are now, let's just stay safe, let's stay with what we know, even if what we know is actually more unsafe. Like, for example, treading the water and not swimming anywhere, having indecision, not making any decision, or getting lost in analysis paralysis. In reality, those things can actually be more unsafe if they keep you in a situation where you're moving backward and you're missing opportunities that you're meant to have, that you deserve to have, that can take you to the next level. So I would encourage you all to really, again, question when you have those thoughts coming up, tell you it's not a good time, let's wait for a better time. And dig in deeper. What are you afraid of? What's actually coming up? Because often our fears actually can be guides to show us what we really want. Often, whatever we're most afraid of is actually a signal of what direction we need to go in. And to qualify that, like, I'm not talking about, doing really unreasonable, unsafe things. Like, I'm not encouraging, like, going gambling all your money or going to become a drug addict or anything crazy like that. Like, I'm talking about, like, reasonable risk here in terms of actually making a financial plan, learning to invest, learning to budget, learning to manage money, learning to grow your money, learning to start a business, learning how to negotiate your salary, like whatever it is financially. Those are the things I'm talking about here. If any of those things are bringing up fear for you, ask yourself why, and ask yourself, what are you really afraid of? And are you more afraid of that, or going backwards, or never having the opportunity to pursue those things? And remember that often what, again, you're most afraid of is what you should actually probably do. It's a signal because it's something that is going outside your comfort zone, and that's why your brain is freaking out. And only when we go outside our comfort zone and take some risks do we have the opportunity to grow. And this is, as humans, what we're all meant to do. We're all meant to go on this life journey to grow. And when it comes to finances, that is totally part of it, right? So when you're feeling that fear come up, think about faith as well. Faith and fear are two polar opposite emotions that really exist in the same place, they go together. So when you're feeling that fear, let yourself fully feel it because it's guiding you where you need to go. And then also let yourself feel the faith, because sometimes when we're so in the fear, we cut off all the faith and we can't feel any of the faith. And faith is one of the most powerful things. You don't have to be religious at all. You can be agnostic, be non-religious, but just having faith in your future and what's possible for you can be the thing to help you overcome those fears and take action anyway and say, you know what? There's never a good time for my finances. I am declaring now is the time because I deserve it. And I'm going to take steps to take myself seriously and therefore take my finances seriously and decide that, right? And the worst case scenario is often not that bad, right? Like, we often get these worst case scenarios that our fears bring up, right? Because our fears will just make our brains go nuts and we come up with all these terrible things that could happen that start to sound really logical and start to rationalize why we should stay where we are. Like, our brains are very good at doing this. It's what's going on really is the ego brain. And what's happening is that our ego brain is naturally designed to rationalize and all of that. And so we don't hear our soul, we don't hear our instinct, we don't hear our inner voice of what is actually the right thing to do. And we have all of these worst case scenarios come up, and often in reality they're very unlikely. That was also something that was very hard for me to learn, that took many years to learn, that my worst case scenarios I was thinking, I actually thought were likely in my brain until I was able to work with a coach who helped me really drill them out and realize that they were actually ridiculous and that they were made up by my brain and my ego, and that they were actually very self-centered. Even like some of my worst case scenarios, which revolved around starting immigrant finance and being more visible and growing it, had to do with fear of judgment and fear of people judging me for it, especially other lawyers. It's very not traditional starting an online business while you're a lawyer. So I had a lot of stories in my head of what was going to happen and how I was going to be harmed that ended up being really ridiculous and really self-centered. And I just had to realize, like, these people I'm so afraid of judging me, they have other things to worry about. They're probably not spending that much time actually thinking about me. And it's just not about me. It's about the people I'm meant to help and serve through this work. And that's what the focus needs to be on. So I share that in case that is helpful for any of you who are kind of getting stuck in your thoughts, and if fear of judgment's coming up or fear of worst case scenario, like, try writing out in great detail what exactly you think the worst case scenario is, and try reading it out loud after. And when I did this exercise with one of my coaches, I was hysterically laughing when I was reading it because this had been the story in my head that I thought was complete reality, or like very likely I didn't even question. And once I read it out loud, excuse me, I realized it was just ridiculous. So question those thoughts that are coming up. They don't have to be you. Your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are just things going through your brain. We have thousands of thoughts every day. You can separate yourself from those thoughts and choose to take action, choose to make a decision, choose to take your finances seriously, and not give in to this story your brain might be telling you of, oh, I have to wait for the right time. Because let me tell you, and again, this is from a place of love and honesty, there is never going to be a good time for whether it's working on your relationship and having a date night, like I mentioned, or work on your finances, or negotiating, asking for more salary at work, like whatever it is. There's never a good time. You have to take your power back and decide it's their good time and take action, or else it's never going to happen. So that is our episode for today. We covered a lot. We covered why there's never a good time for your finances, how you have to make it a good time, the worst case scenarios that can come up and how to rework them. We covered how indecision is a decision as well. We talked about analysis paralysis. We talked about how your fears actually can help show you what you really want and be a signal for you, and how what you're most afraid of is often a sign of what you should do, right? And taking risks and all of that. We talked about faith and fear and the relationship between them. So if this was helpful for you, we would love to help support you in doing this so that you don't have to do it alone. That is exactly what our coaching is for, to help our students together in a community environment, through group coaching, work through these challenges together so that they can move past these thoughts and limiting beliefs and actually make sure that they can make whatever they want in their life a good time, um, and decide now is the right time for my finances, or now is the right time for whatever it is that is affecting their financial lives, starting a business, whatever it is. So if you're interested in getting started, we would love to chat with you and see how we can help you. Go ahead and check out immigrantfinanceschool.com, and we can talk about how we can help support you from moving from surviving to thriving. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to the Immigrant Finance Podcast. And congrats to you for taking some time to invest in learning about finances. It is one of the most powerful steps you can take in your financial journey, is just carving out the space and the time to prioritize it. It all gets easier from there. If you found some value out of this episode, if you learned something, we would be so grateful if you could please share it with your friends or family. And also go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and follow on Spotify. It would really help us be able to reach and help more people. Those algorithms do make a difference. There's two ways you can also deepen your journey when it comes to finances, with immigrant finance, that we would love to invite you to think about. The first is to go and join our private free community group over on Facebook. It's called Building Generational Wealth for Immigrant Families. And you can check it out at facebook.com/groups/immigrant finance. There's a bunch of free prior trainings we've done under the tab guides. You will also be able to access future trainings that we have going forward and connect with other immigrants and their family members who are also focused on building wealth and building a better future for them and their families. The other way you can get started is by learning more about investing. Investing is one of the most powerful acts you can take to build wealth and to stop trading time for money and start building passive income and building wealth for the future. We have a free masterclass that is all about how immigrant families can get started investing, and you can check it out over at investingmasterclass.immigrantfinance.com. Thanks, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.